I knew something in my marriage had snapped the moment. I saw my wife's hand resting far too close to another man's. Not touching. Not yet. But close enough that my stomach dropped and my breath thinned into something shallow and shaky. I stood outside the tall glass windows of the Eastbridge Community Hall, half hidden by the dim evening light and the reflection of passing cars, watching Emma wipe her eyes while this strange man leaned toward her, speaking with a softness I hadn't heard from her in months. She tilted her head the way she did when she was trying to hold herself together, nodding slowly, her fingers twisting the bracelet I bought her on our 5th anniversary. She didn't look angry. She didn't look confused. She looked understood, and that alone felt like betrayal. It didn't matter that they weren't kissing. It didn't matter that there wasn't any obvious physical contact. The truth wasn't in what they did. It was in the way she looked at him, like he knew something about her that I hadn't been allowed to know for a long time, like he understood a version of her I hadn't seen in years. I didn't stay long enough to see more. I turned away before either of them could notice me, and for a moment the cold evening air felt thin in my lungs, like I couldn't catch my breath properly. But the moment I walked away, I realized something important. This wasn't the beginning. This was the confirmation. The beginning had happened a week earlier, on a night that seemed painfully ordinary. I walked into the Golden Hare Bistro to pick up dinner for us. Emma had messaged me saying she felt too tired to cook, that she had a headache and just wanted to lie down. She asked me to bring home her favorite roasted tomato soup. Nothing about her message sounded suspicious. We'd done that 100 times before, but the moment I stepped inside, surrounded by the warm lights, the soft clatter of cutlery, the smell of garlic bread floating in the air, something inside me tightened in a way I didn't understand yet. I stepped forward to the counter, reaching for my wallet, and that's when I saw her. Emma, sitting near the back window, dressed in a way that didn't match the sick, tired tone of her message. Hair is neatly done, makeup fresh. Her posture is straight, and across from her sat a man whose face I couldn't see, only the back of his jacket, the slight lean of his shoulders, the quiet intensity of the conversation I wasn't supposed to witness. I froze. My brain scrambled to create explanations she hadn't earned. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe she decided to step out for fresh air and ran into someone she knew. Maybe I was misreading the entire scene. But I know my wife's expressions. I know her habits. I know the subtle things she does when she's anxious. When she's hiding, when she's pretending everything is fine. She didn't look like a woman who randomly bumped into someone. She looked like a woman who'd been waiting for someone. She didn't notice me. I didn't call her name. I didn't ask who he was. I simply picked up the food and walked out, trying to keep my breathing even, trying not to drop the bag in my hand. That night she came home later, slipping into bed beside me quietly, her movements overly gentle, like she didn't want to disturb me. In the morning, when I casually asked, "Did you rest all right?" she nodded, said she felt better after spending the evening reading. She didn't blink. She didn't hesitate. She didn't stutter. And that smooth lie hurt more than the sight of her with the stranger. Over the next few days, her behavior shifted, not in large dramatic ways, but in the small, subtle ways that matter most. She guarded her phone like it held her pulse. She angled the screen away from me even when she was just checking the time. She laughed at messages she wouldn't show me. She stepped out of the room to take calls. She complimented me more than usual, asked about my day in a way that felt strangely rehearsed, like she was trying to keep me steady, unaware, unthinking. I didn't confront her. I didn't accuse her. I didn't demand explanations. I simply watched her carefully, quietly, the way you watch a glass about to fall from a counter, waiting for the moment it shatters. Sometimes silence exposes people faster than shouting ever could. Then came the night she said she needed to meet a colleague from her office at a cafe to work on a charity event proposal. Emma doesn't even enjoy her workplace events. She rarely talks about her colleagues, and when she does, it's usually to complain. I nodded as if her excuse made perfect sense. She grabbed her bag, glanced at herself in the mirror longer than usual, and left the house in a rush. I waited 15 minutes, just enough time to stop myself from acting out of pure emotion. Then I grabbed my coat and stepped outside. I didn't know where she was, but something in my chest pulled me in a direction I couldn't explain. That instinct led me straight to Eastbridge Community Hall, and that's where I saw her again with the same man from the bistro. Only this time they weren't smiling. Emma's eyes were glossy. She kept wiping her cheeks. The man leaned forward, speaking softly, his expression serious, concerned, almost intimate in a way that made my hands shake. I couldn't stand there any longer. I walked away before the scene could swallow me whole. When she came home later that night, her mascara was smudged. Her shoulders slumped, her breathing uneven. She froze when she saw me sitting on the sofa, fully awake, completely calm. I asked her quietly, "Emma, who is he?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. No defensive tone, no immediate lies, just silence. And that silence was the truth. Eventually she whispered, "He's someone I talk to when I feel lost." Something sharp twisted inside me. She'd been lost and never told me. I asked her why she didn't talk to me instead, her husband, the man who'd spent years trying to be her safe place. Her voice trembled as she answered, "Because I didn't know how to say I'm unhappy without breaking your heart." She said she'd been struggling for months, feeling distant, overwhelmed, confused about everything in her life. She said the man was someone she confided in, someone who listened, someone who understood the parts of her she felt guilty admitting to me. She insisted she never meant for it to become emotional, but her tears, her trembling hands, her panic, they told me everything. I didn't shout. I didn't demand the messages. I didn't ask what they talked about. I simply told her, "I can't fix something if I don't know it's broken. And I can't trust what you hide in the dark." She broke down completely. But my break had happened quietly days earlier. The next morning we agreed to take time apart. No screaming. No slammed doors. Just a quiet mutual understanding that trying to force together what had already come undone would only make things worse. I moved into a small Airbnb near the river in Bristol, a place where the night air always smelled like rain, and the sound of water made it easier to breathe. Emma stayed in the house, promising she would think about everything, promising she needed to understand herself before she could understand us. We texted less each day until our conversations faded into the kind of silence that only comes when two people stop pretending. Weeks passed. Healing came slowly, like learning to walk again after forgetting how to take steps. One evening, walking along the riverside paths, watching the sky melt into a quiet orange glow, I realized something I had been avoiding. Not every heartbreak explodes. Some simply drift apart. Some endings aren't fights. They're acknowledgments that holding on hurts more than letting go. I'm not angry anymore. Not broken. Not resentful. I'm just free in a way I never expected to be. But here's the question I still can't answer. Did I do the right thing by stepping away? Or should I have fought harder to save what we had? Let me know what you think in the comments.